Hello and welcome to Listen.Up.People, a podcast of the USC Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work. I'm Dr. Eric Rice, Professor and Associate Dean for Research. Today we are going to explore an unusual topic, the intersection of social work and law enforcement. Social work and police work have more overlap than is commonly thought. Approximately 80% of calls to police are social service related. Police are also frontline responders addressing the situations involving intimate partner violence, people experiencing homelessness, substance use or youth-related crime, and often find themselves striving to de-escalate a disturbance or connect people with social services. My guests today are the founders of a first-of-its-kind social work and public safety program here at USC. It's a capacity-building partnership that merges social work with law enforcement. Entering its 12th year, the program provides a working partnership and professional development pipeline between social work, local law enforcement agencies, and public safety and community-based organizations. I'd like to welcome today my guests, Dr. Rosemary Alamo, teaching professor of practicum education, whose 28-year career has spanned settings as diverse as healthcare, schools, public safety, and public child welfare, and Dr. Rick Ornelas, associate teaching professor of practicum education, who has over 35 years of law enforcement experience that he integrates with his social work training to help reimagine and implement effective public safety strategies. It is great to have you both. Welcome.
Thank you, Eric.
Oh yeah, thanks. It's so great to have you both. This is such a great and in many ways out of the box topic for social workers for us to talk about today. And with that in mind, I want to start with, I guess, something that's maybe a little more personal, which is why did you both decide to get involved in this topic? So maybe I'll turn to you, Rosemary, first. What started your interest in this, and then I'll move to Rick.
Sure. Thank you again, Eric, for having us. So basically, my transition into public safety really grew organically from what I was witnessing throughout the traditional social work settings that I was in. There was a lot of unmet need, which looked at having individuals, families, and children, and so forth, encountering law enforcement through the various crises that I would observe, whether I was in the schools and healthcare. And many times, unfortunately, they would end up escalating. And although I could see the genuine interest and desire to help from the law enforcement side, I could tell, and even after conversations, that they would acknowledge that they didn't have the skills to address the mental health needs that were arising in those or during those interactions. So at that point, and again, it's been years and years of doing this work, that realizing how important and how beneficial it would be if we would have social work and public safety working together, so that, again, we would help support with, the de-escalation, mental health needs, resources, and really allow law enforcement to do their work as far as enforcement. And at the same time, be able to provide a way for both of us, both of our disciplines, to learn from each other, right? We would learn together and collaboratively to better serve the communities.
And Rick, from your biography, you come from a different starting point, but I'm curious how you came to this work.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I've now been in law enforcement over 35 years. I served 21 years as a law enforcement sergeant for the Los Angeles School Police Department, where I worked in various capacities. And while I was working as a sergeant, much like Rosemary, I noticed that 21st century urban policing requires more than just law, policy, and the traditional law enforcement methods. And law enforcement alone was not designed to meet the challenges of the 21st century. For example, behavioral health, homelessness, substance use, and community trauma. So at the time, I decided to go back to school. And what fit for me was a Master of Social Work program. So I attended USC, at the time the School of Social Work, and obtained my master's degree. And then Rosemary and I have been working together now for over 20 years. And it was together that we saw the gaps
Hmm.
in traditional law enforcement methods, and saw the opportunity for us to collaborate together, not just to address the needs of law enforcement in supporting their work and providing services to the communities that they serve, but to also support in changing and reimagining the way the law enforcement does its work. So around professional development, trauma-informed practices, and supporting them with evidence-based interventions.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it seems like the two of you really coming from different perspectives really saw a shared set of needs. So with that in mind, what is this program that you've created? Can you, I mean, it's been around for a long time, but I'm going to guess that most of the listeners of this podcast are going to be scratching their heads about what is, okay, I get it now that there's this need. What are you doing to fill that gap?
Well, Eric, I can tell you. So let's start with the law enforcement training, with the public
Hmm.
safety training in California. So in the police academies currently, cadets and or recruits receive about 15 hours of behavioral health training.
Okay.
And then the training officers receive about 3 hours of behavioral health training. And then now it's moved to about 4 hours. So one, we see the gap there, right? Just in
Sure.
terms of addressing some of the needs that one law enforcement requires, and then the needs of the community. We also saw the opportunity for our students to truly practice integrative social work practice. Our students work across not just populations, settings, and systems to support law enforcement in a number of capacities, right? So we're talking about direct services with
Hmm.
families, with youth, also engaged in program development, program implementation, evaluation, supporting families through group services as well. And I'll pause there.
Oh, sure, sure. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot to it, but I was going to say,
Yeah.
Rosemary,
Yeah.
are our MSW students
Mhm.
also involved in this in some
Yes.
capacity?
Absolutely. And so basically, what happens is we are involved with public safety or law enforcement across the country. So the word has spread. And so the way it happens is the law enforcement agency or public safety will contact us and say, we've heard about the work that you're doing, right? And so what we do, we sit down with their command staff, administrators, and help customize the services and integrating our MSW interns into those services based on the needs that they have identified their communities to have. And communities that basically, because maybe they're undocumented, maybe because they don't have transportation or access to the resources, then what happens, they don't go and don't, access those resources. And so therefore our interns are then critical in providing these services. So we customize the program, the services for each agency, and we incorporate our interns, again, as Rick mentioned, across the three levels of practice. So ensuring that the youth, families, individuals are getting those services while simultaneously working and supporting the officers so that they themselves will be in a better place, not only individually, but in a better place to be able to support the communities that they are there to support and serve.
So do you then have actual placements of our MSW students who are then working in some ways side by side with law enforcement? Is that part of how that happens?
Yes, absolutely. So what happens is that we have students that are actually working side by side with the officer or public
Okay.
safety to respond to out in the community. So it could be whether they're responding to referrals, mental health, crisis related, or they're providing follow up to calls that officers have made and to be able to provide services. They have supported victims that are coming in from domestic violence, that
Mm.
officers will go ahead and conduct that service call, and then the social work intern will follow up and meet with that individual and assess and provide the resources and services needed, to include even going with them to obtain a restraining order if needed,
Sure.
and walk them through
Wow.
that process. So it really varies, and We see them side by side. We see them being the using also like the alternate response, where if there is no safety concerns, that social work intern will take the lead,
I
right?
see. I see.
So
That's
very, it fluctuates based on the need and what the community is presenting with.
Rick, did you
Mhm.
want to add to that?
Yeah,
You look
yeah.
like you got something on the tip of your tongue.
No, thank you. Our students not only provide the services that Rosemary mentioned, but they also develop essential knowledge, skills, and abilities, disciplinary collaboration between social work, public safety, and the legal systems.
Mhm.
Our students provide crisis intervention strategies, trauma-informed care, and mental health services, to include advocacy, case management, and policy analysis. Additional skills that our students develop is crisis intervention and de-escalation, and learning how to navigate the legal system. And students build on their strengths to develop professional relationships within diverse communities and stakeholders. They also receive hands-on practice in real-world settings.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was going to say when you were mentioning about the some phrases that I think are probably more familiar to people that think about social work more frequently, like trauma-informed lenses to taking problems. I mean, how are those approaches received in the public safety settings that these students are being placed in?
I have to say they have been so open and receptive, at least
Really?
based on our experiences. Many of them, I can tell you in numerous occasions where to include a lieutenant that said, you know what, after hanging out with these interns, I'm now using reflections. I'm now using affirmations and actually identifying the particular intervention using the language. And
Mm,
he's like, after, I don't know, over 30 years, I never thought that I would, be doing this, right? And having officers also that have partnered with the social workers say, man, boy, does this social work intern really, she helps me see things from a different perspective.
yeah.
Or, I never thought about it that way,
I would imagine also, though, that
Mhm.
the social work students themselves
Yes,
transformed by this experience, right?
yes,
I have a hard time imagining that you have a lot of social work students who might say, this is my first choice of an internship to be
yeah,
placed with public safety, but I would imagine it's a pretty powerful, transformative experience. I mean, what has the reaction been from those students? I mean, I don't know if Rick, if this is
yes.
something you want to answer for a second, maybe we go also with Rosemary with this as well too. But I'm really curious how our students respond to this.
Well, I can tell you that we've been fortunate that the students that we have within our that collaborate with our agency partners are doing it because they are committed and dedicated to supporting the legal system. We've now had over 200 students come through our program
Oh,
since
wow.
since its
Mhm.
inception. And while, some of the, early on questions or confusion, both from law enforcement and from the MSW students is, how do we engage within this culture, within this system that might look very different, right?
Hmm.
While both are committed to providing services, problem solving, and building trust with the community. And to our surprise, our MSW interns have not only had an impact, but they also have a new and true appreciation for the challenges and pressures that law enforcement faces, right? Earlier,
Yeah,
Eric,
I bet.
you mentioned that 80% of the calls for service for law enforcement are social services related. And then we
Hmm.
also talked about the gap in the training, right? Only 15 hours or during the academy, and then
Right.
4 hours post academy. So clearly there's a gap there between the training that law enforcement receives and the calls for service. So our MSW students now learned the challenges that the legal system and or law enforcement faces due to those gaps. And so one, there's a true appreciation. They also see that there's a human side to law enforcement,
Right.
and then they also have a further understanding and appreciation how we can bring both of those disciplines and professions together so that they get the best of each talents and gifts.
It's such an interesting, as I said earlier, out of the box partnership, right? I think, as you said, Rick, both are social servants, both are groups of people who are there dedicated to service, right? I mean, this is, the mantras of police departments and social workers is very much about service, and yet from a very different cultural angle, right? And I guess with that in mind, what have been some of the surprises for you all in this? I mean, I know maybe might even think like, oh well, obviously everything's a surprise, but I mean, there's got to be something that for in particular struck you as this was a learning moment that I didn't see coming into this. Maybe I'll turn to you, Rosemary, first, and then to you, Rick. So I'd
Yes.
love to hear your reflections on this.
Yes, well, I have to say, we meet with all the students
Hmm.
that go through the program. So we go ahead and pre-screen and to be able to determine the goodness of fit before sending off for their interviews with the agencies. And sometimes I have to say there's either that excitement or, you know what, I'm not sure, but I'm willing to try it, right? And the surprise comes in when that student says, I was coming in with all these preconceived notions,
Hmm.
uh, these misperceptions of how things are within law enforcement. And I realized that it wasn't like that, right? Realizing that there is a human being on both sides, and also along with the fact that many of these social workers, because of this experience that these interns have had and the great job they have done, that they have been recruited and hired by these agencies, which was initially like, wow, yeah, that would be great. But then ultimately it became like a reality, like a dream
Oh
come true.
wow.
And so that's been like phenomenal to see that indeed the outcome, couldn't be more positive. Here it is, a social work intern coming in and really doing such a phenomenal job that now that agency says, I don't know how we did it without you. We need you. And they
That's
advocate
great.
and they bring them on board. And
That's
hence
great.
now
So
you have somebody
uh,
influencing the system inside
so
as
you actually
well.
have a social worker working in a public safety or police
Ye-
organization now.
Exactly.
Wow.
Either with, again, side by side or an alternate response programs. So they're spread out.
That's great. That's great. Rick, what surprised you as you got into this work?
Well, I can tell you that from my experience in my over 20 years with the LA School Police Department,
Sure.
the only interaction that I had with social workers at the time was when there was a crisis. So now what is striking to me is now how law enforcement has moved to embracing and appreciating social workers or working alongside social workers or having social workers within their organization. Something else that I find striking is the growth and the influence that our program has now evolved to. What started as a pilot program with one law enforcement agency
Hmm.
over 10 years ago has now evolved and expanded throughout California, Nevada, and Washington. And
Oh,
now our
wow.
students are now working alongside various professionals, including attorneys, judges, educators, firefighters, and other mental health providers. This expansion just reaffirms to us the importance of embedding social work across the legal system
Yeah.
and how it truly benefits the community because we are looking at the community holistically.
As you're saying about the growth of this program makes me think about another thing that I wanted to touch on before we wrap up, which is the reputation and really the visibility that the two of you have had as a result of this within Los Angeles. And I know that you were recently both appointed to this advisory board for the LA Metro transition team for the development of a transit community public safety department. Can you tell me a little bit about what this initiative is and how it's related to what you did? I mean, maybe Rosemary, I'll turn to you first just for a second and
Mhm.
say like what is this this opportunity, and
Mhm.
maybe, Rick, you can talk a little bit about how it came out, how it spurred from or what its connection to to our program has been.
Sure. It's so exciting to be able to speak to it because here it is, LA Metro. They used to have a police department public safety program within, and however, they no longer did. And so now here they are working on identifying, what are the best practices, looking at the community as a whole, looking at holistically as well, and bringing
Hmm.
in an array of experts in the community from the community, right? That will be able to have contributions in how that public safety department is going to look. And basically being able to utilize all of our experiences to be able to ultimately have officers and a public safety department that's going to be the most responsive, trauma informed department that I think we've ever seen. And having people like ourselves be able to provide feedback, be able to inform how, again, policies are developed, and knowing that ultimately, at the end of the day, each rider that gets on these trains is going to have an opportunity, should the need arise, to interact with officers, individuals that are trained and that are ready to support in a time of crisis and need.
That's great. And I guess, Rick, to turn to you around this topic, was this opportunity because of the work that you all have been doing? I mean, I would assume it would be, but I mean, was there what was the connection? How did you all end up in this advisory capacity?
Because we've been doing this for over 10 years,
Yeah.
um, we continuously receive opportunities or universities, law enforcement, or other agencies across the nation reach out to us for consult and insight. Like you've been doing this for some time. What are the ingredients? What
Uh,
what what is it that works? One, how do you start a program like yours? How do we what are the nuts and bolts of building out something like this, so as a result of that, the LA Metro reached out to us because they are looking to stand up their own public safety department. We have served on the advisory group to support in not only building out the agency from the ground up, but also to provide expertise and insight around mental health services and policy and program development as it relates to supporting people that might have behavioral health issues and or are unhoused, right? Um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, we have consulted with organizations as far east as Baltimore, to include overseas in York, England. We have noticed that over time, this work specifically has grown
Yeah.
in internationally.
It must be so satisfying for the two of you to not only have successfully created a program like this, but to be receiving these requests for consultation
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to be really recognized for what a challenging area this work is, and how important it is. I mean, I really I wish that we had a lot more time, because I'm sure that there's some amazing more stories about the challenges, about how this was all built out. I had a whole nother set of questions that just popped into my mind as Rick, you were telling me about this, about, yeah, let's talk about how do you create something like this? Because I'm sure there are probably going to be people out there that want to know, but this will have to be saved for our next podcast, because we're running short on time. But I really, really want to thank the two of you for doing amazing work, really groundbreaking work, transformative work for both social work students as well as for law enforcement. And I guess I want to just give you one last opportunity before I close things out, to say, is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about the work that you're doing or the programs that you're involved in, as we close out for the day?
Well, thank you so much, Eric, again for having us here. It's been an honor to be able to share,
Yeah, thank
basically
you.
some of our work here. And all I can say is that we're looking every day, we're looking at ways of how to remove barriers, for our communities to be able to access resources and be able to interact with individuals such as law enforcement and across the legal system in ways that'll be respectful, that they'll be treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve. And anything that we can do from our end to ensure that happens, we are doing it, and we're looking at it every day.
Oh, that's beautiful. Rick, last thoughts
Thank
from
you.
you?
No, thank you. And for me, it's is that no single profession can solve today's complex challenges. And it takes a multidisciplinary interprofessional collaboration to support not only the legal system, but the communities that they serve as well. And so social work brings trauma-informed practice, behavioral health knowledge, and commitment to social justice. So it's bringing both those strengths together that we get a holistic response and that truly serve individuals, families, and communities.
Inspiring. Just amazing work that the two of you have done. I want to thank you both, Rosemary and Rick, for joining us on such a great discussion. If you, the listener, wants to learn more about the School of Social Work and the Social Work and Public Safety program at USC, you can visit our school's website, which is dworak-peck.usc.edu/social work public safety. And if you have questions for the guests on our show, or you want to support the transformative research and programs like this one, you can email us at Listen.Up.People@usc.edu. And one more time, thank you both so much, not only for being here with me, but for doing the work that you do.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.